we represent, Cohn Stiles represents the family of Joseph Adam Lynch, and a wrongful death and dependent adult abuse complaint that we just filed with the Kern County Superior Court. The complaint alleges that Adam was killed by employees of Mountain View Residential Care Home, a group home for people with developmental disabilities, and a facility that's under contract with the Kern Regional Center. According to the Kern County coroner and Adam's death certificate, Adam's death has been classified as a homicide caused by positional asphyxiation. What we understand at this point is that he was restrained by 3 employees of the Mountain View Residential Home in a face-down, supine position. He was restrained for approximately 15 minutes. The first 3 minutes of that, he was responsive and may have been resisting for that first 3 minutes. Thereafter, though, for the remaining 12 minutes, he was non-responsive while the 3 employees held him face down against the floor. At no time during that 12 minutes did the staff from the group home check to see if Adam was breathing. At no time did they check to see if he had a pulse. No one from the group home made any efforts to resuscitate him, and no one attempted to do CPR. In fact, no one attempted to provide him with any type of emergency medical care until Kern County Sheriff's deputies arrived on the scene. Adam was 26 years old at the time of his death. He was born with a disability called Fragile X syndrome. That's a developmental disability. Adam is survived by his mother, Lloyda Lynch, and his brother and sister, Jeremy and Amanda. He's remembered by his family as a kind, caring young man. He loved sports, and he was a fan of both the San Francisco Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Since his death, Adam's family has expressed to me a range of emotions. Again, the incident occurred back on July the 9th, and at that time, it was immediate sadness that was followed by disappointment, and then recently with this release of the death certificate and the classification of his death as a homicide, their emotions have turned to anger. Adam's family hopes that this lawsuit will force residential care facilities such as Mountain View, along with the Kern Regional Center, to reevaluate the ways in which they go about providing care for the developmentally disabled in our community, and that they ensure that these care facilities are staffed with people who have appropriate training to deal with individuals that may have unique needs, such as Adam. Folks, Ms. Lynch has specifically asked me to not make her give a statement here this afternoon. She is still, very upset, of course, as you can all imagine, by the loss of her son. What she did ask me to do was read a statement that's been prepared by the family, and I'll do that now. It says, "We are deeply saddened and disturbed over the death of our beloved Adam. He will forever be remembered in our hearts as a caring and fun-loving young man who always enjoyed spending time with his family and was a die-hard Pittsburgh Steelers and San Francisco Giants fan. Over the years, we entrusted the Kern Regional Center and Mountain View Group Home with the care, protection, and support of Adam. As a result of Adam's death, we have lost trust in these groups to care for the developmentally disabled. Our hope is that this lawsuit will prevent incidents like this from occurring in the future, so that no other family has to go through the pain and suffering that we have had to endure the past several months." And with that, folks, I'll take any questions you may have.
Is there a specific monetary amount you guys are seeking at this point?
No, as you probably understand, when you file a case like this in Superior Court, it's what's called according to proof. What that means is, ultimately, a group of 12 Kern County jurors is going to decide what Adam's life was worth. So it's not up to me to make that decision.
Had there been any problems beforehand with Adam and the staff, or was this an isolated incident?
No, it's my understanding, I mean, it depends on how you classify problems, of course, but it's my understanding that Adam had a history that goes along with his disability of occasional aggressive behavior. That's one of the symptoms that can afflict people with Fragile X syndrome. And what's disappointing, I know, to the family, and to me personally for that matter, is that the home and the employees didn't have people with the appropriate training to deal with Adam. I mean, this is a young man with unique needs, and he had unique sets of care requirements, and under the circumstances, these people that were in the home, at least on this day, didn't know how to deal with it.
Does staff know he had those needs?
Well, you know, that is an excellent question. The Kern Regional Center, who we've also sued in this case, has an obligation to ensure. Remember, the Kern Regional Center provides case management services for Adam, okay? And in addition to that, they have a contract with the group home. They send Adam to that group home. And as such, they have an obligation to make certain that the group home knows of Adam's unique needs and unique circumstances. At this point, I don't know if the Regional Center provided that information to the home or not. I mean, certainly if it was provided, it wasn't adequately communicated to the employees, the 3 employees that held him to the ground for 15 minutes until he was dead.
Is this a case of more of, like you said, trying for change within the system, or is this more of a compensation issue?
Well, I think that that's really a two-part answer. It's a two-part question. I mean, first of all, when we're dealing with people who have unique needs, who are developmentally disabled, who are some of the most vulnerable people in our community, you know, I personally believe there is no cost or price put on safety, okay? But in addition to that, if mistakes were made, right, and the home should have known of Adam's unique needs, if, for example, the people working in the home should have had training on modern restraint techniques, on modern behavior modification techniques, then this type of an incident wouldn't have happened. And so what we're hoping to accomplish, and I know what the family wants us to accomplish, is to ensure that that kind of training is provided in these homes so that something like this doesn't happen again.
Was he just held down, or was he tied or restrained? How did that work?
It's my understanding he was not tied, and I know that there's been a lot in the news lately about hobbling or hog tying. My understanding is none of that occurred. My understanding is he was restrained by 3 individuals, face down on the ground. Again, he was responsive for a period of approximately 3 minutes, and thereafter he was non-responsive, and yet they continued to hold him to the ground for another 12 minutes.
And at that point, I mean, they didn't even check for a pulse or to see if he was breathing in that 12 minutes.
The Kern County Sheriff's Department checked for a pulse when they arrived. He didn't have one, but no one from the group home did that.
I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the size of Adam and the size of the 3 guys that held him down.
I don't know anything about the size of the 3 guys that held him down. I provided some photographs in our press packet of Adam. I can't give you his exact height and weight, but roughly 5'4", 5'5", 200 pounds.
Had there been other instances prior to this to where he needed to be restrained or anything?
You know, again, I don't have an answer to that. We've only recently filed a suit, as in this morning. I haven't had an opportunity to conduct any discovery. You know, that will ultimately be disclosed in this case. But let me just say this. Even if there had been prior incidences where he had to be restrained, again, this is a young man that had a unique disability and had unique needs. And the staff should have been trained on how to properly restrain him if restraint was necessary.
Had there been any kind of response from the group home before or after this lawsuit was filed?
I've heard nothing from the group home. So the answer is no. I haven't heard anything. Again, the suit was only recently filed, so I wouldn't expect to hear anything today.
Even any contact with the group home to the family expressing condolences?
It's my understanding that there were some condolences expressed shortly after this incident occurred in July. Certainly that was never communicated directly to me, but my understanding is some members of the family were contacted by the group home and condolences were expressed.
Now that the suit's filed, timeline-wise, what are we looking at before it goes before a judge? What sort of timeline are we looking at now?
You know, that's an excellent question. It's frankly a question I get from my clients all the time, is how long is this going to take? And the answer to that is, well, it's largely dependent upon the court system. In Kern County, we're really lucky. We have a very efficient court in this county. We can expect the case is filed today to probably have a trial date in a year and 3 months from now.
And that's pretty standard?
That's pretty standard across the board, correct.
And-
otherwise.
Oh, just to make it clear, Adam he was already dead by the time deputies arrived.
It's my
Whether-
understanding.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt you, I
Oh,
apologize.
no, I just didn't know if they had performed CPR on him or if he'd already passed.
It's my understanding that they made some attempts to perform some type of life-saving measures, that those were unsuccessful. I'm not clear if he was rendered dead while still at the facility or if he was transported to Kern Medical Center and pronounced dead at that location.
They, as in the deputies.
They as in the deputies, correct. My understanding is no one, and this is obviously a matter of great disappointment for us, that no one from the group home checked for a pulse, checked to see if he was breathing, or performed CPR. Wasn't until the Kern County Sheriff's Department arrived on scene that any of that was done. And you know, it's kind of interesting, since we've been here, looking at my watch, we've been here about 12 minutes, right? And when you see that on paper, it doesn't always seem like that long a period of time. But when you think about holding your breath for 12 minutes, right? And that's what happened to this guy. When you're restrained by 3 other individuals, face down, especially if you're overweight, you know, it's a very, very dangerous thing to do, and that's why the coroner classified this as positional asphyxiation.
How long had the group home been in operation?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that Adam had been in the group home for approximately 3 to 4 years. Yeah, you know, the only thing I would suggest is that it's my belief that we don't judge people by the mistakes that they make, right? I mean, we're all subject to making a mistake from time to time, but we judge people instead by how do you respond to those mistakes. And in this case, Mountain View, the group home, and the Kern Regional Center, they have a choice. They can either respond by owning up to what happened and taking proactive measures to ensure that this kind of abuse doesn't happen in the future, or they can choose to shy away from their responsibility and deny that they had anything to do with Adam's death.
If they push to settle, will you go for that, or do you want to see this through?
Well, you know, that's a question that I can't answer in a vacuum, right? We don't know what all the facts are at this point. We certainly don't know, you know, what, if any, type of settlement offer would be made. So that's something that, you know, is partly, or entirely, for that matter, up to the family in the future. That's not really my decision. If the family wants to push it forward to trial, that's something that we're absolutely prepared to do.